The legislation in Madison takes away, to a certain extent, from the school boards the ability to govern the schools. I tend to be opposed to big government in general. It's a big government. The government will now come from the state down through the school boards, and we'll have a handful of things that we may or may not be able to negotiate. So in effect, the local school boards, which maybe a decade and a half ago, the legislature and the governor fashioned into second-class citizens, have now been reduced to steerage class. This would be droll if it wasn't so tragic. Local school districts and boards should be in the business of educating. The key words here are local and educating. There was a school board member some time ago, 2003, I think, Roger Danielson was his name. He was out in Waukesha, and he was commenting on the fact that for some reason, known only to, I guess, a select few, we start school September 1st. Why do we start school September 1st? Well, the argument went that the individuals are needed in the tourism industry. The high school students are needed in the tourism industry. Now, if you take a look at the tourism industry, you'll discover that most of the workers of Wisconsin Dells, for instance, are from overseas. The same is true in Door County. They're from overseas. We have about 40% of our students who come back to school somewhere around the first week to the second week of August for athletics and other things. We have several athletic events that occur prior to September 1st when the students have to come back, and they're poorly and sparsely attended. Why was it done? Well, as I indicated, the state seemed to think it was a good idea, and local boards of education obviously didn't have a say in it. What else do we lose? We lose the possibility of starting early so that our students who take our students who take AP classes, or if they're involved in baccalaureate programs, international baccalaureate programs, are at least a week behind. So the abolition of local board control, I guess we were elected to serve the citizens of this community on the school board. But that's been tempered and tempered and tempered. I had a high school Latin teacher a long time ago taught me a phrase. It was semper connasciet quod aegis. Always remember what it is you do. That's what we should be about.
With regard to the budget repair bill, I think it's pretty obvious that the cost part of it is going to be a pretty easy thing to do. But having gone through and have worked in a union environment for quite a few years, when you're confronted with the potential of staff viewing viewing this as opportunity or as it loss, so I think the administration is going to have a real tough time, potentially, depending on the makeup of the staff. And I'm more of an optimistic person that the fact that the staff will reply or respond to the opportunity. It's always been my experience that, yeah, you'll have some people who are naysayers, and you have the people who say, this is an opportunity. Remember those three words I told you: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. This is an opportunity for the school systems to have autonomy, and that includes the teachers. It is a chance for them to display their mastery in ways that I think they probably couldn't before. And I think, lastly, to have a purpose to really take this educational environment to a higher level. Easily said, I'm not sure that it's going to be that easy to do, but time will tell. It's an opportunity, or is it a loss on part of the staff? The last couple words are, the tough thing is right size and then to optimize. We're coming up on the time to right size the system, and so the challenge is to optimize its functionality.
Thank you. This is the last question before the closing statements. And looking at the time, if we'll just abbreviate our responses accordingly. This last question draws a nexus between your priorities and finances. And it's a collection of several questions we have left here on the table. With the education budget cuts coming, what would you cut? Sports, art, music, employees, foreign language? Where would be your priorities as far as the budget cuts? Start with Jim.
Okay. None of the
Think about a
above.
minute response for it.
None of the
All
above.
of that in a minute.
End of.
Oh, that's your response, Sydney?
I'll take the fifth. No. I thought about that. In fact, this afternoon, I figured that question was going to come up. And I don't have a straightforward answer because I think you have to look at a systematic viewpoint of saying, let's display all the opportunities here. And it's almost as if you're putting a target out there, and I don't want it to be a target. But at the center, you've got the core deliverables that say, you know, you got to have math, science, social studies, and English, okay? But on top of that, what are the things that are going to support that so you have a well-rounded education? What I think is going to be germane is to have everybody involved in taking a look at that model and displaying. I can envision having a 10-foot square with the whole programming laid out on it so people can see what's the thinking of the board and the administration and the teachers as to what's most important. One last quick comment. Everybody says China is better because their math, science scores are higher. But think of it this way. Do they have the autonomy that we have? No. Do they have the mastery? Maybe so. Do they have the purpose? I don't think so. This country is 4 times smaller than China and produces 4 times the output. That's why this education system works the way it is, and we need to balance it. So there's no straightforward answer to just lop off this and lop off that.
Well, it's sort of the question we face every first week of November when we have our listening sessions for the public and everybody steps up to the microphone and says, don't cut music, don't cut foreign language, don't cut math, don't cut gym, don't cut this, don't cut independent study, don't cut the writing lab. And the strategy we took this year for the budget was to say, we're not doing that. We're not nickel and diming our program anymore. We're going to look fundamentally at where the bulk of our expense lies, and it's in compensation. And in the short term, that's what we're going to focus on, reducing our compensation costs. That's not a sustainable strategy for more than a couple of years. So in the long term, we need to look at a different financing structure for what we do. If as a community we decide a well-rounded college preparatory educational program, K-12, is what we want, and that's if, then we need to restructure it, reorganize it, redo it, such that we can accomplish that with the resources we have. Because we know there's no money coming. We know there's less money coming. But if we're going to start pitting programs against each other, that's counterproductive. We need to figure out how to present what we have in a way that we can financially sustain. So we've tried that, and that doesn't work very well. We need to try something different, because picking, cherry picking what program is on the chopping block this year has not been a very constructive practice. And that's why we chose a different route this year, and that's why I think in the short term it was a good choice, and I think in the long term we have a lot of heavy lifting to do about what does this all look like going forward.
Okay, now it's time for the closing statements. Suzette, Jim, and then Sydney. Go ahead, Suzette.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear your questions, to respond to them, and to lay out a little bit of maybe where my thinking is headed going forward for the next 3 to 5 years in terms of the school district and what we can do to help it get there. Like many of you, my husband John and I moved here because of the schools 25 years ago, and also because of the low taxes. We value public education, and we value community service and giving back to the community. But as we've said all evening, these are no ordinary times. Stability, knowledge, and experience can make the difference between weathering the uncertainty that we're facing or adding to it. I bring those skills, experience, and continuity needed to navigate through these times with an approachable and respectful leadership style and a big picture perspective. I have demonstrated responsible and conservative management of your tax dollars, as well as a focus on innovation and continual improvement of our academic programs that make our children successful. I do understand the critical role our schools play in the quality of life here in Mequon Thiensville, and the importance of maintaining and promoting our tradition of excellence that attracts people here. I've been honored and privileged to serve this community, to serve the children of this community, and I am excited. Yes, I use that word. I'm very excited about the challenges and opportunities that lie before us as we guide and direct our schools through these uncharted times, and therefore I ask for your vote on April 5th. Thank you very much.
I'd like to echo Suzette's thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being interested. Thank you for participating. You know, I listened tonight, and school board members, community members, and students all believe that a good education is vital, and that good educators are something special. A skilled educator can open doors that a kid doesn't even know are there. He or she can say there are songs to be sung that humanity has never heard before. He can lend a hand to the boy who finds the going hard. He can be up there to say to the girl with a newly broken heart, hey, the sun will come up tomorrow, and up yonder there's a bend in the road, and, well, who knows? He can say, as Frost wrote, I have promises to keep. He can say, as Bobby Kennedy quoted Shaw, some men see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not? This is the destiny of a skilled educator, come to a school where no one quite like him or her ever came before, to tell the stodgy that there's a brave new world out there, and we're not yet all that we can be. Romantic? Possibly. But what better romance is there? We're blessed in Mequon Thiensville with good educators and good schools. Our job is to keep them vital and meaningful and find creative ways to do that. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you, and good night.
Okay, thanks. Well, I feel like I'm the rookie now standing on first base. So hopefully with your support, I'll make it around to home base, come up on April 5th. But having said that, one of the things I think people think about is, Sid, you're kind of a short timer here, and now you're really anchored to the community. Well, a little bit of that comes with the notion of, what's your past. I literally thought 16 years ago I was sitting in my retirement home in Syracuse, New York. 4 jobs later, 3 houses later, I'm now sitting in my retirement home in Mequon. And I hope that's going to stay, because I don't intend to make any more career stops. So what I hope to offer the community and the school district is a lot of experience and a lifelong interest in education and in educational practice. I've been on the side of having to move family and make tough decisions, help close down a plant where 1,000 people lost their job at a heartbeat, and I'd hate to see that type of thing show up here within this school system. There's some unique problem-solving skills, I think, sitting here, and I'd like to bring those to bear, and hopefully you see that on April 5th. Thanks.
Thank you, and let's give him a round of applause.